You are tuned to Anubhav 2.0 podcast from senior citizens, catalyzed and supported by the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India, through National Institutes for Social Defense and Media for Community Foundation. The project is conceived and designed by Dr. R. Sridhar and supported by Ashish Tiwari, Pooja Murada, Sai Sudha, and Kaushalya.
கூடுங்கள் கேளுங்கள் நண்பர்களே, இளமையில் நாம் செய்ய நினைத்ததை முதுமையில் செய்ய இயலுமே என்று வாருங்கள் வாருங்கள் நண்பர்களே, கூடுங்கள் கேளுங்கள் நண்பர்களே. கோவை வானில் ஒன்றாய் கூடி சிந்திப்போம், கேட்போம், மகிழ்வோம், சிந்திப்போம், கேட்போம், மகிழ்வோம்.
Vanakkam listeners. Who else can be the right person to talk about the benefits of counseling than a lady with a very strong academic knowledge as well as decades of beautiful life experiences in human behavior? We have with us today a cheerful 67 years young Mrs. Sulekha Nair. She has a master's in clinical psychology with specialization in child and adolescent guidance and an internship at Child Guidance Unit, NIMHANS, Bangalore. She started her career as an editor with the publishers Macmillan and Company, took a break, got married, traveled to various places like Delhi, Chandigarh, Mumbai, and became a full-time mom of 2 dynamic and zestful children while her husband was away traveling around the world on work. Caught up with the dot-com boom of the 90s, she worked as a language trainer and freelance writer for several national publications including The Week, India Today, and The Sunday Observer. Currently, she is working as a part-time content writer, but with the current scenario of artificial intelligence has begun to sweep people like her out of this landscape. She lives in Kovai Chinmayam retirement community with her husband and a daughter who's intellectually challenged. Throughout this journey, Mrs. Nair has kept abreast of developments, breakthroughs, and movements in her subject and explored the ever-expanding reach of this wonderful area of human life. Thank you very much, Lekha ma'am, for sparing your valuable time with us today.
My pleasure.
What actually inspired you to choose the field of psychology?
I'm not sure whether I would use the word inspired, Bhuvna, because like many of my generation, I kind of stumbled into academics and luckily or unluckily, this was the path I chose, and I think it has kind of been a very valuable path that I chose. One of the things that I felt very strongly about when I chose this path was, the Greek temple of Apollo at Delphi. There is an inscription on top of that which says, "Know thyself." So I felt that was important, Maybe it was I could maybe put it down to a little bit of selfishness. I wanted to know myself first before I tried to know somebody else. But that was very important because from there I could kind of, externalize the learnings that I knew about myself and then try to figure out attitudes, behavior, motivation, and the kinds of stresses, pressures and pulls that people are under and why and how they behave under such stress. So this was something which I was always curious about. And luckily for me, Bangalore University at that time had some very great faculty in the postgraduate department.
Mm-hmm.
And that was equally important when I studied the subject in greater detail. So that's about.
That's very interesting. Thank you for that, ma'am. Can you please throw some light on the most significant benefits of counseling? For example, even if the person is not diagnosed with any mental health issue.
I think when we think of counseling, the one of the root words, the meanings of counseling is to give advice. So, although we don't look at that as the real meaning today in counseling, one of the main goals of counseling is really to provide support,
Right.
emotional support in times of stress and in times of no stress also. Because I think as human beings, we need to stay connected with our humanity. So, with counseling, what happens is, earlier, I think in maybe not so long ago, at least I am old enough to remember, when family structures were available as sources of emotional support. I'm not saying it would always be like your parents or your immediate siblings who were there to support you. It could be even, an aunt or an uncle or someone who was available for you to discuss something that was bothering you. And later, as we were growing up, there were friends and neighbors who fulfilled that role also. I remember a time when some friends of ours, the parents were going through a divorce, and the children were kind of, at sea how to deal with these problems. But somehow everyone on the street just opened up their houses to these kids, and they would just come and sit sometimes, just sit in a house. You didn't need to talk or you didn't need to do anything, just be there in a place which is quiet, away from the chaos of home. And sometimes, they would just talk about how hurt they were about everything. And we would just kind of, yeah, that's, let's see how things work out. So I think today what has happened is those systems have changed. But emotional support is always required. And one of those goals is fulfilled by counseling. And if you're looking at, are we talking about the benefits of counseling? Yeah, if you look at the real clinical benefits of counseling, I've got a kind of, this, let me read from that.
Sure.
It seeks to provide things like self awareness, and how to be a little more assertive and set boundaries.
Sure.
Many of us don't know how to say no nicely, So sometimes we are so conflicted, we don't want to do something, but still we don't know how to say no in a nice way. So I think a little bit of, techniques you learn with counseling, being assertive without being nasty, and changing attitudes and behaviors. Sometimes when you look at a behavior which is causing conflict within your family and you realize that, but you don't know how to change it. So maybe a few sessions with a counselor will teach you like little techniques of where you can change and how you can create the change. They say be the change that you want to create,
Sure.
and also stress relief, relationship problems. These are things for which usually people go to a counselor, and you also feel more relaxed and more connected, because today a lot of counseling has become multidisciplinary, where they do teach breathing techniques, yoga, and it's connected with many of the physical relaxation techniques also. So I think those are the real benefits of counseling. And earlier counseling did focus on career counseling or vocational counseling, but today it's a more general sort of thing.
Thank you so much for that. There's always this stigma around this mental health counseling in our country. So, could you please tell us how to break this barrier and then make it more approachable for whenever people need help?
I think stigma is it's an age-old problem, and it's not going to go away anytime in the near future, because there are real barriers to seeking help of any kind. Like even if you look at going to a doctor for a physical problem, we think about 20 times, should I go or should I not go, unless you are actively invested in your own physical health. We kind of rarely want to jump up and go and visit a doctor because we're afraid of what we're going to hear.
Very true.
But when it comes to mental health, it's very different. We never seek help. We don't think that help is available to us. And also, stigma can also be of two types. You have the social stigma, which we all know about. Now, what is my next door neighbor going to think about me? Are they going to think that I'm incompetent or weak, or I'm not okay, I'm not normal, I'm not capable of functioning, I cannot carry on a relationship? So those are some of the reasons we think that somebody is going to think about us. The other kind of stigma is a self stigma. We also feel that maybe I'm not adequate enough. That is why I need support. Look at everyone around me is okay. I'm the only person like this. So, I am afraid to go and seek some help. But I feel the stigma is something which, where you need to realize that it is only your perception, because today barriers to seeking help have really blurred and nobody really thinks very much about. And another thing is, I don't think too many people have time to think about you. They're too busy thinking about themselves. Yeah, they're too busy thinking about themselves. So if we think that, oh my God, what is my uncle or my aunt going to think about me? Sorry, they've got their own problems to think about. So I think stigma is something which we perceive and it may not be real at all. So one of the barriers that we can break is to realize that it may not exist at all as we think. And this another thing that we need to make people aware of is, you are not your illness. For example, if you suffer from anxiety, you suffer from anxiety. You are not anxiety itself,
Right.
So there is help to get rid of that problem. So unless we separate ourselves from our illness, it's like separating yourself from your illness. Suppose you have an illness like a cancer or something. You are not that cancer. You are a person who has that condition. So till we learn to separate that, and there are ways of dealing with that issue, and when we take that on ourselves and when we become aware of it, I think the stigma process will get rid of it. And another thing to breaking barriers is, don't be so secretive about it. The more people you talk to, like today, a lot of people are very comfortable with talking about their illness. Like you may meet somebody, and the third time you meet them, they may say, hey, I have this condition, whatever. It may be like arthritis or, cancer or whatever. So like that, I think if we get comfortable about talking about seeking mental health, I think the stigma will disappear on its own.
That's a beautiful perspective. Thank you so much for that. Now we all keep talking about digital therapy platforms, and how do you think this online counseling will help change the landscape of mental health system?
I was just thinking about one aspect of psychology itself branched off from psychiatry quite some time back. We stopped following the medical model, and when Sigmund Freud developed the whole psychoanalysis techniques, one of the things he did was he stationed himself behind the patient, and the couch was the patient would lie on the couch and the therapist would be behind him, where the patient cannot see the therapist's face or expression or anything. So then they feel safe. There's no judgment, or he can say the worst kind of things that are happening in his mind, and that he knows that he doesn't know what the therapist's expression is. So I think there we laid the foundation of the distance between the therapist and the subject.
Right.
So I think that tradition will carry on, and today with online, it gives you so much more flexibility. For instance, if you're not able to travel, now we live in Annur. If we need to consult a psychologist, we need to travel quite a distance.
That's right.
So if we have an online, counselor, it's going to be a great facility, and you're in the privacy and the comfort of your own home, where you feel safe. and you're talking to somebody who is not going to judge you for whatever you're going to tell them. So those are the things I think online is going to create a lot. Another thing, Bhuvna, in practical terms, online is much more affordable than it is a lot more affordable than the traditional. You travel miles, you make an appointment, you go there, you spend hours there, you travel back, and then they charge you per session. Whereas when it's online, a therapist is also free. Sometimes they work from their homes. They don't need the overheads of a clinic or a place. So their charges are usually a lot more affordable. I think the only thing we need to watch out for is, are they properly qualified? What is their background? What is their experience? Because like every field, there are people who are not very well trained. That could be a little bit of a risk. So when you're looking for an online counselor, I think it's important to check the background and make sure that it's a safe person and somebody who's not going to misuse the information, because you're going to reveal a lot of private stuff. So you need to just watch out for those things. But I think that's true of any therapist or any doctor. Even if you go to a real therapist, they can still misuse the information. So I think it's a great idea, and it's the reach is much more. Being digital, I think they can kind of reach geographies, time zones. A lot of busy working people don't have time during the day. So even if it's late at night, you can talk to your therapist. Sure. And so those are, I think it's a great idea online.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I'll come to the final question to you, ma'am. How can we create a supportive environment in our communities where people feel comfortable reaching out for counseling per se?
I think one of the things with like this population, with the geriatric population, is that there could be some common factors which do create a little bit of difficulties for them. For example, loneliness is one of the things that we need to watch out for, and physical pain or trauma can create different moods and different emotions in people. Some people may react with anger, or they may speak rudely. So these are things which we need to understand. It's probably coming from a different space. So there, I think maybe our healthcare team can be trained, maybe attend short-term counseling courses. That would be nice if they can get some academic training in that. And they should specialize in geriatric counseling, because it's an area which is still unexplored. Psychology and psychotherapy, when it started, in fact, it focused on children and education. So it has come a long way since then, but still not enough work has been done with older populations, So it would be great if our healthcare team can attend a few classes in counseling, maybe basic therapy, and find out, maybe organize small group sessions. That will be nice, where they can talk freely in a safe space and not be judged for whatever they're doing. So I think that's about what I can think of in a community like ours. And since we also have PWDs here, I think that would also help to deal with, because there will be a different perspective of how people view PWDs and how PWDs themselves view older people.
That's a very valuable suggestion. We'll definitely look into that. On behalf of Kovai Vani team, thank you so much, ma'am, for the insightful talk today.
Thank you, Bhuvna. I really enjoyed that, and it gave me a great opportunity to go back to my something which I kind of explored maybe 50 years ago. That was great. Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you and stay tuned.